Davante Adams and the Los Angeles Rams have agreed to a 2-year contract worth $46 million. Adams guaranteed $26 million.
Sam Darnold signs a 3-year deal worth close to $100 million.
We've got breaking news into CBS Sports HQ. Cooper Kupp is expected to sign with the Seahawks. According to our Jonathan Jones,
whatever the Niners are doing, I don't like. Just because you have a name on a sheet of paper does not mean you have an adequate replacement. You have lost the heartbeat of the defense, and you have lost the glue piece of the offense.
The 49ers are still favored to win the NFC West, even after the team experiences a mass exodus of a lot of good players, even after the Rams make a big splash signing, bringing in wide receiver Davante Adams. Hell, even after the Seattle Seahawks bring in quarterback Sam Darnold and wide receiver Cooper Kupp, the 49ers are still in the top spot amongst all the sports books to win the NFC West. Why is that? Well, that's what we're going to talk about it. So with that being said, back at it talking 49ers football. Let's get into it, y'all. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Ryan Tigey back in action. When you take a look at the sports books, across any sports books, the 49ers still have the best odds to win the NFC West. Now, some people may think, maybe outside 49er fans, why would the 49ers be favored? Hell, they just lost a ton of players, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, Charvarius Ward, Javon Hargrave, the list goes on. Not to mention the factor of the team losing Deebo Samuel as the wide back. So why is it the money amongst all the sports books, the 49ers have those best odds? Well, the answer, it's simple. It's their schedule. For those that don't know, the San Francisco 49ers, obviously, they had an atrocious year last year, finishing 6-11, dramatically underperformed what expectations were for the team. But the benefit of that, looking ahead now into the 2025 season, is the 49ers, they get to play a fourth place schedule. Because they shit the bed pretty bad last year, it is now going to help them into this upcoming season. Even with after all the changes that we've already seen occur ahead of the draft, the 49ers, they're going to need a lot of help. In the schedule, that's a big part of it. Now, when you take a look around the league and you hear most NFL pundits, NFL fans, they're typically saying the Rams are the team to beat. Hell, they were a few plays away from beating the Philadelphia Eagles, going to the NFC Championship game to get a shot and compete for a Super Bowl. Well, that didn't happen, but we do know they got a good coach. They got Matt Stafford re-signed to another contract. They brought in Davante Adams. They still have Puka Nacua. Sean McVay's still there. So why is it the team that made it the furthest, finishing in first place in the NFC West, making it the furthest in the playoffs, are not the ones to be favored to win the NFC West? Well, there's 3 games. If you were to take a look at the schedules, there's 3 games that really matter. Who the 49ers play versus who the Rams are going to have to face. Again, we're talking opposite ends of the spectrum as it relates to schedules. The Rams, they got to play all the first place teams, whereas the Niners, they get to play all the fourth place teams. So let's go look at the separator games. When we take a look at the AFC North, the San Francisco 49ers, they get to take on the Cleveland Browns. Who do the Rams have to play? They got to play Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. Hell, if we were to go to the NFC East, the San Francisco 49ers get to take on the New York Giants, and whoever their quarterback looks like Danger Russ is going to be the guy over there. Could be Jameis Winston, could be a QB that they draft. The bottom line is the 49ers, they get to take on the New York Giants, whereas the Los Angeles Rams, they get to take on the Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning, defending Super Bowl champs. And then finally, when we pivot to the NFC North, the 49ers get to take on the Chicago Bears. The Rams, they have to go up against the Detroit Lions. Now, some people may be thinking, well, what about the Cardinals? What about the Seahawks? Again, I think if there's any logical fans out there, the biggest threat to the 49ers or the biggest competition in the NFC West, it's against the 49ers and the Rams. I think the Seattle Seahawks, they will be okay, but I'm seeing a Sam Darnold regression coming in the near future. And then, of course, the Arizona Cardinals, although they had the number of the 49ers last year, again, I'm considering that more of a fluke. Kyler Murray, that squad over there, I don't look at them as too big as a threat, relative to how I see the 49ers and the Rams. And so the bottom line and what we all need to know is it's all about the schedule. The way you get into the playoffs is winning your division. The 49ers, they've been good and dominant at doing so, except for last year. So it's all about winning your schedule to get into the dance. And those 3 games that I just rattled off, those are the separating factor. This is where the Niners being horrible last year is going to benefit them this year. And when you continue to hear the noise about how much the 49ers, how they're going to need help from all these draft picks, they have no defensive line right now. Everybody's gone on the defensive side of the ball who were starters. Well, again, not to beat a dead horse, the 4 players that were defensive starters for the 49ers that are no longer on the team were also the 4 guys who missed the most amount of time last year. So the 49ers, they weren't playing with them last year. They're not going to play with them this year. But it will be helpful to know going into it who's going to be playing for the team. Versus this past year, Dre Greenlaw, every week through the back half of the year, he was going to come back. He was getting closer. He was getting closer. Same thing with Talanoa Hufanga. He would come in, he would go out. Javon Hargrave, torn bicep, out of nowhere, knocks him out for the rest of the season. So there is a lot of unpredictability when it comes to injuries. But again, it was one of those years, the 49ers, the guys who are no longer there, they were the guys not on the field as it was to begin with. So yes, are the 49ers, are they going to need help from rookies that they draft? 100%. But the difference is the 49ers last year, because they won the NFC West, they were playing the first place schedule. That's why they had to play a lot tougher of teams relative to the Rams. Yes, there's still a lot of games in divisions that the 49ers and the rest of the NFC West will match up against, but those are 3 big factors. Everyone knows when it comes down to winning your division, every game matters. And when you have the ability to play a lesser team, technically on paper, that is to your massive advantage, and those games are absolute must win. And I believe the 49ers, getting a little bit ahead of myself here, they should be able to beat the Cleveland Browns, the New York Giants, and the Chicago Bears. Could some of those teams dramatically be improved? You hear a lot of people talking about Ben Johnson getting hired to the Bears, Caleb Williams bolstering the offensive line, for sure. But with how we know the teams will be structured, regardless, if they were to play today, the 49ers, I think they would take care of business. Whereas the Rams, having to take on those 3 other opponents, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Detroit Lions, the Baltimore Ravens, I think that's safe to say those games, they're a little tougher. So it all boils down to the schedule. And when you go back and dissect the 49ers season last year, we all know the defense, they were the problem. The offense, still good, not great. The defense, they were the issue. The defense gave up way too many points. And when you just look at the 49ers offense, all pieces they still have, minus Deebo Samuel, who's coming off his worst year, they still got all their core pieces. Yes, Brandon Ayuk's going to have to get healthy. They still got Juwan Jennings. They got Christian McCaffrey coming back. They got Ricky Pearsall going into his 2nd year. They got George Kittle. They brought back Kyle Juszczyk, which was huge. The 49ers, they still got other pieces on offense. They finished 4th in total offense in the entire NFL last year. The 49ers offense, with all those injuries, with the instability at the receiver position, having their offensive MVP not play for the vast majority of the season, the 49ers still finished 4th in total yards. And not only just in total yards, they also finished 4th in pass yards. Guess who's coming back as the 49ers quarterback? Brock Purdy. He's been doing a little press media tour. Good to see him out there talking and giving his perspective about the season last year and how it is just playing quarterback and being the QB1 for the San Francisco 49ers.
Really, it's 60-40. You can see about 60% of the time, and the other 40% you really can't. I mean, it doesn't matter how bigger you are.
Right.
I mean, I'm already shorter in stature, yes, but he goes, that's why it's so important when it comes down to knowing coverages, knowing scheme, where our players are supposed to be, how many steps they're breaking, and where the ball should be over a certain backer. Like, all those things, man, it matters. And that's why, like, guys, you know, if you go to a combine and all those things, you're just throwing on air and, yeah, you look all good with a strong arm and fast jumping, all that stuff. But when it comes down to 11 on 11 and you got guys that are a foot taller than you and you can't see, it comes down to the processing. Like, before the play, like, I know that the safety's probably going to rotate down. It's going to be one high, and I got one hitch, no more than that, to rip it where Deebo's supposed to be, like, just inside the hash, and there's a backer that's also got a 40-inch vert that I got to put up. You know, like,
it's all good stuff. But Brock Purdy, he's coming back. 4th in pass yards, 4th in total offense. And again, even without their offensive MVP and Christian McCaffrey, the top tier running back in the league, they still finished 12th in rush yards. Even that is an achievement, because if you were to break down the offenses and where the Niners place in just rush yards alone, they had dramatically less attempts than the teams that finished in the top spots. The Philadelphia Eagles, they finished 2nd in total rush yards with Saquon Barkley. Obviously, balled out last year. He was fun to watch. But they had 164 more rush attempts than the 49ers did. And the 49ers, they still finished 12th. And as oftentimes people talk about, the offense and defense, they're interconnected. When the 49ers defense is giving up points, which they did, what do offenses typically have to pivot to? They got to pivot to the pass game because they're down points. They need points. They got to pivot to the pass game to score quickly and make up for the deficit that the defense is leaving them with. So yes, the schedule is the key benefactor in all of this, and why all the sports books have them as the best odds, with the Rams falling behind in 2nd place with the 2nd best odds. So I just had to jump on here. Not a lot going on right now as we wait for the NFL draft. Basically, everything that else is that's coming out around the team is little dink and dunk moves here and there. A lot of players, they're on vacation. You follow them on IG. You see them all over the place doing all kinds of different shit, which is cool. But this is the dead period for the NFL right now, and I think everyone's feeling it. But I thought it was worth pointing out that the 49ers, they got the best odds to win the NFC West, to get them back into the playoffs, and hopefully, a shot to win the Lombardi Trophy. So, all right, y'all, I'll be back. But until my next video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. You know the deal. Hit me up. Peace.